TCK. Hello adventurers! In these videos I'll be addressing some basic concepts for Final Fantasy XIV, focused primarily on introducing newer players to the game. If you have questions or requests for new video content, feel free to drop me a line. And if you enjoy the video, consider a commendation, or in this case, hit that like and or notification button. My name is Kai, and this is Welcome to Eorzea. Welcome back to Eorzea, and thank you for joining me again today. To address the elephant in the room, a link to the update video regarding the delay in this episode is in the description below. That said, in the previous two episodes we've taken a look at the user interface and should feel more comfortable with the overall look and feel of Final Fantasy XIV. With all that squared away, it's time to jump into our first adventures. I will take a moment to note that as you venture out into the realm, the game will begin to prompt you with a number of helpful tutorial pop-ups, which explain various elements of the game, ranging from quest targets and experience points to the inventory and armory chest. I strongly recommend at least browsing these tooltips, as I will be assuming as the series continues that you are passingly familiar with the content that they provide. If you should need a refresher on any of these, however, you may access them by selecting Active Help from the System menu. As you may already have been informed after speaking to your first unavoidable series of NPCs, the Aetheryte, the large glowing blue crystal, is instrumental to your continued adventures. Whenever you visit a new location, the first, and I literally mean first thing you should do, is attune to the Aetheryte as soon as the game will allow you to. Why? Hydaelyn is big. Your list of locations you are able to teleport to will become monstrous as gameplay continues, and quests can and will send you running to the 12 Nowhere to complete various tasks. Additionally, should you fall in battle outside the presence of a healer, your other option is to respawn at the Aetheryte you set as a home location. Should you want or need to return to the area in which you were questing, you would be a very sad adventurer when you inevitably must walk back there from, say, Ul'dah. Now, Chocobo Porters do exist, but are rarely utilized and, you guessed it, will need to be unlocked at new locations you visit as well, and therefore are not a backup plan. Tag those crystals. While we're talking about crystals, capital cities have smaller crystals called Aetheryte shards, which you should tag as well. These are less instrumental to questing abroad, but make zipping around the city much easier. They will also provide you with a few bonus teleport destinations after completing the full set. You may as well grab them all. After speaking with the guild master for your class, you'll be sent out into the wild unknown to do battle with your first foes in the game. Before engaging a foe, it's good to take a moment to get a feel for character and camera movement. Test out selecting and toggling targets for a second. The earlier you master this skill, the friendlier later content will be for you. On the keyboard, you can swap through targets in your field of vision with the Tab key, or simply left-click to select. Right-clicking will begin auto-attacking, although if you are not playing a ranged character, this will not trigger combat until you are close enough for your auto-attacks to make contact. For the controller, you can target cycle by holding R2 or right trigger and pressing R1 or right bumper. You can also do this with the left side if you prefer. Some targets will be hostile as you close in, though not those in starting areas, as a rule of thumb. For now though, it is better to assume the target is hostile for safety's sake. If you are not new to MMOs, much of this will seem intuitive already, so let's shift into the next important notes. To begin, you will only have one ability at your disposal, which will be either a spell or a weapon skill. For thaumaturges and arcanists, know that you cannot move while casting any spell with a cast time, or the spell will fail. You may notice a slight server lag, which will allow you to move seemingly a few seconds before the spell fires, because server-side, the spell has already happened, you just haven't seen it locally yet. This can be tricky to master, so play around with it some and find your comfort zone. For melee and ranged characters, know that your auto-attacks happen at regular intervals, regardless of weapon skill execution. If you watch as the damage numbers occur, you will notice that Minikai will sometimes appear to deal 2 hits worth of damage. This is because the auto-attack occurs even during the execution of Fast Blade. In short, there's no need to wait between attacks to use your next skill. Attack every time the cooldown, referred to as the global cooldown, is over. You with me so far? Excellent. While we're punting marmots, both figuratively and very literally, You'll also notice that we are receiving damage from an opponent's auto attack as well. These are functionally unavoidable. While the attacks can miss or be dodged, the chance of this happening is determined automatically based on character stats and has nothing to do with character movement. As you can see here, you can absolutely run around while attacking. However, doing so affords you no advantage to avoiding enemy auto attacks, as long as you are within striking distance. For archers at this stage, you may be able to keep out of attack range, but know that bringing an enemy too far from their starting location will cause them to become invulnerable while they return to their starting location and heal to full HP. This can be immensely frustrating, so be wary. Since Minikai is a gladiator, the first skill he unlocks is a skill that provides a damage buff. This is a cooldown ability and can be executed anytime it is available, even during the global cooldown, during which normal weapon skills or spells cannot be activated. Eventually, perhaps as early as the first level up, non-spellcasters will unlock their first combination skill. As the game will helpfully advise, combination skills are those which are executed sequentially to have greater effect. In this case, Minikai unlocks Riot Blade. We can see from the tooltip that if executed alone, it has a potency of 100, but if executed after Fast Blade, it will hit 3 times as hard. When we strike an enemy with Fast Blade, we see Riot Blade light up, indicating it as the next weapon skill in the sequence. Executing these attacks in order is the key to success, and is commonly referred to as the rotation or your rotation. This is the bread and butter of your damage dealing. We don't need to expand on this further just yet. If, for whatever reason, we take too long to execute the next ability in the sequence, the combo will end. We can see here that Riot Blade simply stops glowing, meaning if used now, it will not receive the combo bonus. Now that we understand how to hit and be hit, it's time we covered a topic you'll need for the entire game. I'm referring, of course, to Area of Effect, or AoE attacks. If you're experiencing Final Fantasy XIV without a tutorial or friend to guide you, this can be the most difficult element to master early on. But in a few short minutes, I will impart to you the tools you can use to build a solid foundation to, hopefully, never struggle with this. The first thing of which you must be aware is that the server is always just slightly ahead of your device. When we see an AoE indicator, the moment it is no longer visible is the moment the game has determined if you have been hit or not. Even if it takes a moment or several for the animation of the monster's attack to register, if you were even slightly inside the glowing area, you will be hit, regardless of how far away you are now. This can result in hilarity where your body appears up to 30 meters away from where you were standing when the game decided you were dead. The only way to avoid the attack is to be completely outside of the glowing area before it vanishes. This seems pretty intuitive, and it is, with only a few caveats. First, some abilities have what we call animation lock, most notably the ninja and dragoon jobs later on. Executing any ability that makes your character appear to be inside the targeted area when the indicator vanishes will cause you to be hit. This won't come into play right now, but just keep that nugget in the back of your mind, especially if you intend to play the aforementioned jobs. The other thing to note is that any damage mitigation ability you use will only affect the incoming damage if the ability goes off before the AoE indicator vanishes. Remember, by the time you no longer see the glow, the game has already decided how much damage you've been hit by. In theory, this applies to healing as well, although in practice, restored HP will still be restored when the damage hits, meaning a last-second cure, second wind, or potion could possibly save your life. What then is a poor adventurer to do when targeted by a nasty AoE attack? This, at least, is very simple. Fly, you fools. When you see a glowing AoE marker, your first reflex should be to leave the affected area as quickly as you can. Do this by taking the shortest distance out of the shape you're inside. For a cone, this is towards or even through the enemy. Don't worry, there is almost no enemy in the game that can damage you by walking through their character model, with only very rare exceptions. For a circle attack centered on you, any direction not off a cliff or into more enemies is fine, and for a circle not centered on you, just move towards the closest edge. But, I can almost hear you typing in the comment sections below, what about my combo, or what about killing the enemy before the attack finishes? The reason I tell you to avoid first, attack second, is a matter of enemy familiarity. If you are unfamiliar with your target, you cannot know how quickly the AoE will go off at first, and so the avoid reflex will prevent unnecessary damage during your first few encounters with that enemy. Finishing your combo is almost never more important than avoiding unnecessary damage. Later, when you know how fast the attack is and you know your own damage capacity, you can decide when to dodge and when you can certainly kill the target before the attack goes off. But remember that nothing will hurt your soul more than dying to an enemy with 1% HP because you chose to eat the attack you could simply have sidestepped. As the game continues, you will encounter more AoEs in increasingly bizarre shapes, with increasing regularity, and at unforgiving speeds. It is not uncommon to be hit by a number of these the first few times, and possibly even die. But when the chips are down and you aren't sure about the next thing to do, remember this early reflex training and make like a Gohan. You are generally much more help alive than dead, and not getting hit is the best way to not be dead. Usually. We've covered a lot of new content today, so let's have a brief recap. Today's important lessons can be broken down into 4 main components. 1. Attune your Aetherytes. 2. Get comfortable targeting and changing targets quickly. 3. Follow your rotation and use cooldowns where appropriate. And 4. Avoid area of effect attacks. The combo finish simply isn't worth your life. Starting on these skills as early as possible will pay you the largest dividends in performance as the game goes on. When experiencing content for the first time, or when knowledge of a specific quest or boss fails you, these basics can help guide you to victory. For now, thank you for joining me, happy adventuring, and until next time, may you ever walk in the light of the crystal. My name is Kai, and I'll see you in Eorzea.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. Spooky, scary skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek.
We're so sorry, skeletons, you're so misunderstood. You only want to socialize, but I don't think we should.
A spooky, scary skeleton shouts startling, shrilly screams. They'll sneak from their sarcophagus and just won't leave you be.